Hey, what is going on, guys? Hope you're having a fantastic Sunday. Welcome to Sunday Night Live. Tonight's going to be a fun night. Of course, we've got Ryan, myself, and we got a special guest, Jeremy from Techthusiam. Jeremy, what's going on, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very good, dude. So Jeremy and I have been talking probably the past couple months, and then he actually attended Audio Advice Live, so I had a chance to meet him in person, and so I reached out to him the other day. I said, "Hey, man, you ought to come on the Sunday Night Live show and just hang out with us for a little bit." So anyway, so he's going to be on here. We're going to be answering your questions tonight. So as you think of those types of questions, just drop those over in the chat. We'll actually answer those, really not necessarily at the end of the stream. It'll actually be throughout the stream tonight. So if you got those, definitely drop those. Also, let me know where you're listening in from. I always like to kind of see where you guys are checking in from. Say hi to some folks. Pancho from the Netherlands. Good to see you, man. Chris is always in the house. Good to see you, brother. Did Chris make it out to the show, to your thing? We'll talk about that in just a minute.
My brain is so fried that I don't remember, but I don't think so.
Gotcha. We got some folks from Jersey. Hi, Finest. Good to see you. Justin, all the way from Ohio. What is going on? New York is in the house. Represent. Good to see you. Michigan.
Australia, it's like, what, 9 a.m.? Right?
Yeah, they're like
Tomorrow?
almost about 12 hours different. Yeah. What's going on, man? Haterade's in the house. Good to see Jordan.
Haterade always reminds me of Waterboy.
Why is that?
I don't know. It's just not him specifically, just the name. Haterade. 11 a.m. Okay, so you're on the East Coast of Australia, Phil?
Man, how
Western Australia.
Okay, I'm gonna star this. We'll come back to this in just a minute. So we'll get to your questions here just shortly. Just say hi to some folks. Australia, Cleveland, Atlanta, Georgia, Iowa. And you guys are from all over the place. That's awesome, man. Super cool. Very cool. Folks from Australia. Wisconsin's in the house. Oh, yeah. Cool deal, man. So love seeing you guys from all over the world. That's super cool. So tonight, before we jump into your questions, like I said, if you got questions, drop them in the chat. Ryan will star those for me, and then we'll jump on those in just a minute. Ryan just recently, this past weekend, was it yesterday? So yesterday they had a pretty cool event. The guys in Kansas City, they like to get together pretty much every single month. They'll go to different people's homes and just hang out, do some home theater demos and such. But this recent event yesterday was in the park. And so I think Jonathan headed that up. And so
he put this one together.
He spent, that was a lot of work putting that together. So he's taking a break tonight. But Ryan, go ahead and pull those up.
I did. You just got to start them.
What do you mean I got to start them? I'm not seeing it. There we go. All right, cool.
Well, usually you add them to the stream, so I just don't do anything.
I got you. All right, tell us what we're looking at here.
So we did a theater in the park type thing where a bunch of home theater guys got together. We brought these speakers out to a public park. We were thankful that nobody got mad at us. I don't think there's any noise ordinances or anything in this general location. This space is actually made for live music. Like there's a bunch of concrete out for people to gather. There's a big grass terrace that people can go out on, and there's a bunch of like shelters out further out that I can't really showcase. I don't know if there's another picture that showcases these, but we just brought out a bunch of speakers. So I had 2 cars full to get the RTJs out there. It's amazing that just to get a stereo pair was 2 cars worth of stuff, like 2 hatchbacks. And when we put the subs in the back of our Leaf, it actually, like, you could see the suspension going as it just pushed it all down. But it was a lot of fun. Jonathan and I, I can't remember his name. Who else was out there? I can't remember. But we were out there at like 9:30 getting everything set up.
I know you said Ian was out there.
Ian was out there later, but I can't remember that. For some reason, my brain has not recovered from yesterday about what the gentleman's name was that was out there with us. And I can picture his face, but my brain is just not remembering his name. And I know his name. It's just not working. So anyway, we got all this stuff out there. I brought the CX 1102s and then the RTJ amp. So the RTJs had about 15,000 watts of amplification
Nice.
between the two towers and the subs. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And then Jonathan brought out the Aeons and the 71Js or the 70J1s. I can never remember what order that goes, but the CBTs.
That's on the far right and left.
Yep.
Okay.
And then Ian brought out the Klipsch. So it was just
Gotcha.
a big get together. We had lunch. Families came out. The park had a big playground for the kids. Just a good time. Good time.
Chris said he couldn't make it yesterday, celebrating his girlfriend's birthday.
No, you just tell her that your birthday can wait.
Yeah.
Audio is life. That's how this goes.
Is that all extra gear, or did that come out of different guys' spaces?
So Jonathan has extra 70J1s. So they were, I guess these are like his backups or his outdoor ones. And the Aeons he bought on the JBL mess up sale.
So the Aeons would be the ones to the
with
left,
the 18-inch sub, and then the like PA looking driver above it. Usually the PAs are on poles, but it was so windy. That's why the second sub for the RTJs isn't mounted on top of the 410, because it was so windy. We were actually worried that they were going to blow over. So we had the 70s or the CBTs ratchet strapped to the posts so that they wouldn't blow over.
You can see them over there. You got a closer shot too, right? Another photo?
There is another photo. In the other photo, you can see Brian brought out an orbit shifter.
Nice.
So we had that out. So you've got
the JTR sub.
Yep. So you've got effectively 518s because we were running it with the RTJs. And that thing puts out some mid bass.
A lot of output. So not a super low bass, but the output that it does, oh my gosh,
is immense. Immense because of its horn path and just how the sub's designed.
Yeah.
But it's like the size of a small refrigerator. I mean, it's large. So it was just a good time. And I think the most surprising thing was just how good the Aeon sounded. These guys right here, they sounded really, really good for the price point. Granted, he did get them for,
like
$300 a piece.
Yeah,
so it was just stupid amount of how much he spent. But it was just a good time. We had a bunch of people out,
nice,
grilled out. It's always fun to get everybody together. It was 80 degrees yesterday. I mean, I got some sun. You can see that.
Yeah. Just
really enjoyed it. So I really appreciate Jonathan for putting that all together, and it was a lot of fun.
Nice.
Jonathan took the initiative to do that.
Cool.
Oh goodness, Chris, that's for you, Ryan.
Ryan, my friend said something did happen yesterday that Totes made up for not being there. Did you guys get engaged? I don't know.
No, he said he's not engaged.
Oh, he's not.
Yeah, but he had some fun, I think.
Oh well, good. But you should have been there, and he should have told you GF no.
That's right, man. Well, super cool, Jeremy. Kind of introduce yourself, the folks that don't know you, and we'll jump right into it, man.
Cool. Yeah. So I'm Jaremy Pyle. I run the Techthusiam YouTube. Started that last summer. It's grown pretty good. Been a fun ride. I've been into this home theater stuff for 20 plus years through multiple houses and DIY systems and all that. Pretty much the whole gamut. Sitting in my dedicated space here, and starting to really befriend a lot of the other folks. Michael's my go-to guy whenever I have questions about YouTube. I'm on Facebook chat all the time.
Yeah. So Jeremy's got a great channel. He's growing it. He does a lot of home theater stuff. Like I said, we had a chance to connect with him at Audio Advice Live. And you're up in, you said
Michigan. Southeast Michigan.
Yes, he's way up in the cold, man. So definitely go check out his channel. He's got a lot of content. And
Jeremy, I really enjoyed talking to you at Audio Advice. I think you're making an impact on the scene. You're getting started in, I think, a good way. And I think it's great for the community to have you be part of it. So I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, super knowledgeable, man. I love hanging out with guys that are smarter than me because I continue to learn from you guys. Man, we got folks from Japan. We got folks from Israel. I saw one earlier. That's awesome.
I'm talking about the meetups. We got there's a trifecta of AVS Michigan meetups coming this next weekend. So
very cool.
Our community is starting to pick up a little bit here.
Right. So do y'all do like get-togethers too?
Yeah, it broke down a little bit, of course, through COVID, and
Sure.
I discovered it only a little while ago. For as long as I've been an
Right.
AVS member and contributor,
Yeah.
so I did it just a couple of things last year. I've had some folks over to my place a couple times, but
Gotcha.
yeah, we've got an event Friday night. The one of the AVS Home Theater of the Month, the Spartan Theater that was earlier this year. We're going there Saturday morning, and then Saturday night we get to see a room. I think it'll be the most insane room I'll probably ever experience. And there's like a Christie eclipse and the whole
Oh yeah.
gamut in there. So
Nice.
that one's going to be pretty wild.
There was a group that just had their like a get together, or no, that's coming up. I'm trying to remember. I got invited to one. It was like the first Christie eclipse in a home theater.
That might be Art. Yeah, I think that might be the room on Saturday. Yep.
Yeah, so that's coming up. I was thinking it already happened, but that's right. He sent me an invite. I'm like, man, I just got way too much going on right now. I've got a trip possibly scheduled to California in a couple weeks, and then sometime after that, me and Jessica may be heading over to the Philippines. So for a trip over there. So lots and lots, and then I've got a ton of stuff in for review that I gotta get cranking this week, man. I took a couple days off, and I'm like, all right, time to hit it. So, well, guys, if you've got questions, drop those in the chat. We'll be answering those throughout the stream. We'll probably keep this to about an hour, and we're just gonna have some fun. So if you got some questions for myself, Ryan, Jeremy, we'll all try to do our best to answer those. And so I'm gonna go back over here. We'll just start answering some questions. Cool. Justin Laird, Youthman, how do you watch your media? Mostly streaming, or do you purchase digital movies? So I don't have many digital movies.
The book.
Yeah. Typically, most of my movies are just purchased. So I'll buy 4K disc. Like I'm waiting on Maverick to come in. I'm so pumped about that. I'm hoping it's going to be kind of a good transfer. Some people are saying, it's not that great as far as the bottom end, the base. So we'll see. But overall, even just the story, I think they just did it very, very well. Really paid kind of homage and tribute to the original Top Gun. But it was just really cool, man. And then, although there wasn't, the whole movie isn't action. I mean, they were definitely trying to develop storyline and everything.
And Maverick was amazing. I really enjoyed it.
I loved it. 100% loved it. But some people were saying, oh man, I wish there was like more action. But
really, they just wanted more shirtless volleyball. That's really what it came down to.
No.
Tom Cruise is in good shape for 60, right?
Heck yeah, dude. Yeah, and for him to do all of his stunts, man, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So that was a great movie. So I'm waiting on that to come out. But typically, I don't do a lot of digital movies. Like if Jessica's asleep, like right now, if I went to watch a movie, I might watch something just on Netflix or Hulu or something like that. And I'm not really worried about anything hi-fi because the subwoofers are off anyway, so they don't disturb her. But typically I'm more of just a physical media guy.
Now, would you watch something like Top Gun on a streaming platform?
No.
Yeah.
I have no desire. To me, it serves no point.
Well, and I say that because somebody, where'd that go?
Yeah.
Jed says Maverick on Apple was a little weak, and that I think a big part of that is because the compression and audio is the first thing to go.
Yeah.
Whenever they have to do any type of compression.
Yeah, I would have zero. Like when I know people are saying that, they're like, "Oh, when it comes out on streaming, I'm like, I have no desire."
Nope.
I'm either watching it in the theater, which I did, and it was phenomenal in Dolby Cinema, and then I also, I'm looking forward to watching it in my theater on a proper setup with proper audio, high resolution. I don't want, compressed audio from streaming, and we're just not there yet. I think it's going to be a long time before we get to the point to where, we have like lossless audio for streaming.
Well, and I think they're also going backwards. I mean, the technology is improving even with streaming, bandwidth's improving, but we actually saw things go the opposite direction here recently where they're trying to make things more compressed and they're focusing more on the video side than the audio side. And I think people have a tendency to forget that us here in the enthusiast space for AV are not the target market. I mean, they're trying to jam this in for people to be able to watch on their phones on 4G and 5G and all that stuff. And it's just not going to happen. I mean, the target market is people, if they're in their home, either using TV or sound bars,
Yeah.
and watching on their phone and under limited bandwidth restrictions. The other thing that we noticed when we were doing the home theater in the park thing was that all of the music, or a lot of music that you hear on the radio, is when you play it, especially in a space that doesn't have any room gain, or the room doesn't come to the equation, you really realize and you can tell what platform that was mastered for, right? Was it mastered for radio? And a lot of times you have dynamics are really neutered. You don't have nearly as much bass as what I found. It's just a totally different experience than something like, and my go-to as of lately has been Infected Mushroom, that you never hear on the radio. I mean, they're designed basically to come out directly to the end user, and it's a totally different experience. And I think when you're watching something that's designed for a streaming platform, and there are exceptions, like take Stranger Things. Stranger Things, I think, is fantastic. Would it be better if it wasn't streamed? Probably, but I think they still did a really good job. So I'm like you, and I'll get off my soapbox in that if there's something out that I really want to watch, I'll avoid it until I can watch it on Kaleidescape or physical media.
Sure. Yeah. Right. Michael has it best right here. I mean, nothing like the physical media. He's addicted. And the reality is, unless you've got Kaleidescape, unless you've got a 4K disc, or you've made a copy of that, like a direct one-to-one copy, and you're playing it on a Zapedi, Zadu, or something like that, or Plex, you're not going to experience, really what we as enthusiasts are there for. So
I've been doing a bunch of like streaming face-offs actually on the channel, hitting, iTunes, Vudu, Disney Plus, HBO. With the Apple TVs, and you put them in developer mode, you can get like this HUD, overlay HUD, that shows you the bit rates, the codecs, and all that stuff. And I mean, you're lucky to get 25 to 30 megabit on a video on a stream, right? In a disc, Kaleidescape can easily quadruple, triple, or more the video rates. And the best streaming that you're going to get for audio is like an iTunes Dolby Atmos, which is a lossy compressed Dolby Atmos at like 770K. And so Kaleidescape and disc just many times those multipliers.
But I don't really consider Kaleidescape streaming. I mean, Kaleidescape is more physical media than streaming. I would say, you download it, but it's close to physical media, if not better in some cases.
Yeah. So I mean, it's going to be just like a Zadu or Zapedi, as far as like, it's a one-to-one copy kind of thing. I mean, you're getting the physical digital, I guess. With streaming, they just take so much data out of it. They compress it. The file size, like Jeremy said, aren't near the same size. So, when you're thinking like a photography world, the less information's there, the less, data you have to work with, and the less resolution you have in that image. And so anytime that we are taking content out of that, then that means you're missing out. So
especially when we have all these setups, all this gear, and we spend all this time building these spaces.
Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of these guys are having the same thing. They're like, look, physical media all the way for me. Super, super cool. All right, let's go to some other questions here. And I've got some super chats, so we'll get to those as well. So J156 question, do y'all recommend using a different crossover for your Nearfield subs than you use for your non-Nearfield in the same room? So just quick recap, Nearfield subs are when you take the subwoofer and put them, if you've got an 18-inch subwoofer, then that subwoofer is going to be within 18 inches of your seat. So, or like your body, basically. So usually those subwoofers are sitting right behind your chair, your theater seat. So you guys will probably have to speak to that, because that I've never owned or set up a Nearfield sub. So I don't know if there's anything different that you have to do with crossovers.
Jeremy, do you have Nearfield?
No, I run two subs in my room. At some point I'll have 4 in here, and I debate whether I'll put them in these corners or I'll pull them up to the back of the couch, but I'm probably a little ways away from.
So for my Nearfields, they're not on a different crossover. They're the same as everything else. And I don't really see a need to increase it. In the stuff above the crossover point, I'm not really wanting to come through my subs anyway, even for Nearfield. So I don't really worry about that.
I would assume I just run Anthem Arc and let it set what it wants to set, I guess.
Room correction can do some really weird stuff with Nearfield,
With
so I
Nears?
don't necessarily recommend allowing room correction to deal with it because it can make them way too loud or not loud enough. And I just typically, I'm not even running room correction in my room right now. I just let the speakers do their thing. I'll manually tweak some stuff, and then I've never really had good luck with room correction. I got a new mic. I'm waiting for direct spatials. We'll see if that changes things. I got 4 more subs that are going in for spatial, so it's hopefully Storm keeps their delivery date of this year, and I'll have a new toy to play with. But we'll see.
For those in the chat and that are joining us live, and even that are going to watch on the replay, maybe kind of talk just a little bit about like what is this spatial? I've heard the term kind of thrown out there.
Direct spatial is the ability, or maybe it's not direct, but spatial is the ability for you to compensate for different room modes and things of that nature with the speakers themselves. So as it was explained to me, you can actually take front and rear banks of subwoofers and fire them to each other and then do wave cancellations to fix EQ problems.
Interesting.
So there's a lot of really cool stuff that you can do with it to eliminate room modes and all kinds of other things using sound waves themselves for like what you would have for noise cancellation in headphones.
So when I think of spatial, I think of, oh, this is like a new format, almost like Dolby Atmos or Oro 3D. Or
it is. There's a lot of stuff that goes in with it, but it's I don't understand enough about it yet. I haven't really read into it, so I don't really want to comment on it after that because I don't have the knowledge to be able to do it.
Jeremy, are you familiar with it? Have you done any research? I haven't.
No, just from the recent announcements. Yeah, a little bit of reading and listening to some other folks talk about it. Yeah. It's attached to Dirac and uses your speaker's full range to do those room modes. It's interesting for sure.
Now, is this the one that allows you to kind of pair the subwoofer up with individual speakers, or is that something different I'm thinking about?
It's different. That's different.
Okay. Gotcha. All right, cool. Well, let me go to the super chats here. Chris, appreciate the $10 super chat. Since it's Halloween or close to Halloween, what is your favorite scary movie in the creepy voice? So what are your scary movies, favorites? Y'all watch any?
Scary movie? What do we call it? Like Halloween scary movie or just scary movie?
I don't know. Either one.
I mean, favorite scary movie of all time is Alien. No question.
Okay.
But like
horror? So to me, yeah, I don't really watch many horror movies. Like when I was a teenager, I was into Freddy Krueger. Loved that. Don't really watch those anymore because most time you watch them and like, wow, that is really cheesy, like really bad. So I never really got into Michael Myers and that sort of thing, Halloween. But probably like most recent one, it's not really a scary movie, even though maybe it could be classified, would be like, now just drew a blank, a silent. Oh, what am I thinking? Oh my goodness, man.
Silent Hill?
No. A Quiet Place. That's what I'm thinking of. A Quiet Place 2. Oh my goodness. Those are phenomenal. Now another one's Conjuring. That's a little creepy. But it's not necessarily like Halloween, but it's definitely kind of one of those little freaky, man. Especially when you've got like a home theater set up, dude, you're hearing stuff. It'll mess with your mind. So what would be your go-to scary movie, Jeremy?
I would say I'm kind of more a zombie fan. So the original Night of the Living Dead.
Okay.
Classic. I'd say Poltergeist, another one. The original Poltergeist. That one messed up my head as a kid.
Yeah.
I'm just talking with my daughter about this too. Like, at what age was I when I probably watched like Friday the 13th movies and Nightmare on Elm Street? Probably way too young.
Yeah, it's like, what was our parents thinking, man? Letting us watch that stuff. So, Chris, let us know in the chat what your favorite scary movie is in the creepy voice. So definitely be interested in that. Let me go to this other super chat. Eric, appreciate the $20 super chat. Hey, Youth Man, just hoping to get a shout out for the Dallas get together group. That is awesome, dude. I'm super excited for you guys. You hung out with myself and others at CEDIA, and it was awesome, man. We've grown quite a bit from your mention about the AVS thread. So thank you. So yeah, so what he's talking about, let me pull this up. I guess forum. Let's see. I think I've got it in. I mean, it's DFW. I think it's what they call it.
Dallas Fort Worth.
Yeah. Let's see if I can find it. AVS Forum DF. I don't think it's the get together. They call it something else. Oh my goodness. Help me find it, guys. DFW.
You're on your own.
Oh man, don't do this to me. It's weird because I know I found it last time. It's Dallas Fort Worth. Meetup? Maybe they call it a meetup. There we go. So that's what it is. So if you search Google for DFW AVS Forum Meetup, that pulls it up. So let me pull it up here on the screen. So I'd love for you guys, if you're in the DFW area, or even if you're just willing to travel, we talked about this, I think, last stream. These are incredible, man. These guys are beginning to get together. They came to M-Wave, which is an event that Ryan and I put on last July. We're making plans for M-Wave 2023. So this really kind of spawned them wanting to get together and do this on a regular basis in their area. And so you can see they've got some photos here. And they've got a community. So definitely I will drop this over in the chat. So if you are in the DFW area, definitely show them some love. Go hang out with them, reach out to them. That should be going in the chat right there. So Eric, appreciate that super chat, man. Super grateful to meet you at CEDIA, and really, really excited for you guys that you're developing community. You're learning from each other, sharing each other's systems, and just having a blast, man. So that is super, super cool. Definitely excited for you guys. Chadman, let me pull this down. Chadman says, how would you compare the tech Perlisten uses, even in their R series? So that's like a more affordable series than the S series, to something like Martin Logan Paradigm or B&W Towers, wider dispersion, different sound characteristics. Man, Ryan, you may have more experience. I mean, you own Perlisten. I've only heard them, I guess maybe 2 times I've heard Perlisten. But I've never done any like side-by-side comparisons to kind of know, like, I mean, I know they definitely have different technology. I mean, Martin Logan, they use the electrostats. Sometimes they use an AMT tweeter. Perlisten has their own beamforming kind of, what do you call it? Not technology.
Array.
Yeah, maybe that's what.
So Perlisten, I would put them more closely related to Martin Logan, not in the electrostatic realm, but just, and not even with their motion series. What I mean by put them with is that they have a limited dispersion, right? So Martin Logan's electrostatics are 30 degrees dispersion horizontally and 0 degrees vertically. The Perlistens are like 40 to 45 degrees horizontally and significantly less than that in the vertical. So they take a philosophy of taking out the room from the equation, right? So you have to treat less. You're not worried as much about reflection points. The main difference that you're going to have between them and a Martin Logan is Perlistens can get much, much louder. I mean, they've got the THX dominance rating. Nobody actually knows what that means outside of the volume level, because there is a lot more that goes with it, but nobody will talk about it. Mainly, I'm assuming because they don't want anybody to be copying them.
Right.
So there is a lot that goes with it. I don't think they relate really at all to Paradigm or in any way, shape, or form to Bowers and Wilkins, because Bowers and Wilkins are a very warm sounding speaker. They take a totally different philosophy from the others. Paradigm's more of a, I don't know what I would call them, neutral, not in a bright or warm sense, but they're just more of a traditional speaker. Perlisten and Martin Logan are more on the fringes. Perlisten, I think, is like Martin Logan dispersion wise, but they take a very objective approach to their design.
Right.
They have a very flat frequency response. So if you're looking for a very objective speaker, I think Perlisten is probably going to be it. I don't think they have the same imaging that Martin Logan has. I'm just a sucker for electrostatics. That's just me.
Yeah, that's what you're like.
They're all great speakers, don't get me wrong, but Perlisten just has a very objective approach to audio.
Yeah. Yeah, those guys are straight up. I mean, they're about the numbers, they're about the data. That's
Mm-hmm.
why when you go on their website,
They
they have
publish
no
everything.
they have no problem like posting their is it called polar pattern?
Yeah.
I think it's what they call it. You know, so they like posting that because they believe in their product. They know how it measures. They're willing to send it off to guys like Audio Advice. I'm not Audio Advice, Audioholics, and
Mm-hmm.
let Gene and Matt Pose measure these things. They're like, hey, see how they measure. Aaron from Aaron's Audio Corner, he's measured them. I think they're bookshelf speakers, and they measure very, very well. So
I like them. If you're on the fence about buying them and they're in there, I mean, they're really good.
yeah.
They're more expensive.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really have very many low offerings. I don't think they have anything under $2,000. So
Yeah, I don't know what the I don't remember what the So anyway,
Like-
if you're interested in any of that, definitely reach out to Ryan and get you pricing on that off off camera. So of course.
yeah, we won't do that here.
Yeah, definitely don't want to do that.
I would love to hear and measure their new in walls.
Yeah.
Versus my Focal 1000s.
From what Perlisten says, they measure virtually identical to their traditional cabinet speakers because they use an aluminum backer box. They're virtually the same.
Yeah.
They're not going to have about really the same volume, but they measure about almost identical to the
I've got Focal 1000s, and Aaron measured them as well. They get a little squirrely in my room. In both my rooms, actually, I have them, and they tracked pretty close to what what Aaron measured. But looking at those, the new S Perlistens, similar size ish to the 1000s and all that, but they weigh over like twice as much. It's like a 60-pound in wall, so that thing has got to be braced.
They're big boys
and locked. Yeah.
So one thing that there's probably not a lot of guys that are willing to measure. I guess with their in-walls might be a little bit different just because, well, I guess you wouldn't want to really measure it not installed, I guess, because then it's going to interact differently with your room. One thing that I found out from Eric when he was talking to me at when I interviewed him at CEDIA is he said in-walls actually can be like an incredibly well designed and measure very, very well because you take some of those reflections off because it's in the same plane as the front wall. I'm like, well, that's kind of interesting, so that part I didn't know. I always, typically we think of in walls as a compromise to a floor standing speaker and they don't look at it that way. They're like, look, we can design a killer LCR.
They can be.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of them that
I'm not saying everybody. I'm just saying like Perlisten has taken the approach that like, look, we can design a high fidelity in-wall speaker that you can absolutely use in a home theater setup as your LCR or side surrounds or rear surrounds. So, but definitely maybe reach out to them. Who knows? But
I'd have a lot more hope for that. Just given that heft, I think that would right off the bat, like engineering wise, should help to mitigate in a big sealed, heavy locked in wall.
Yeah.
Deal with some of the issues that in walls bring.
Yeah, for sure. It's super, super cool, man. Got a bunch of questions here, so we'll get through as much of these as we can. So Michael says, hey, Michael, my receiver fried on, dude, I hate that, dude. Fried on my home theater. What brand do you recommend to last? I was thinking maybe Pioneer or Sony. So Sony honestly hasn't been like in the lead for, I guess, maybe never. So I probably wouldn't put Sony up there. I haven't had a lot of experience with Pioneer. My first receiver ever back in the Dolby Pro Logic days was a Pioneer, probably like a 5.1 system. So I just got in one of the new, I think it's a Pioneer 505 from the Elite series. So I'm excited to check that out. It's got Direct Live built in. And of course they've got their macaque room correction software. I think that's how you pronounce it. So I'm interested to hear how it sounds. But I really don't have a lot of experience with that. I mean, kind of your go-to in the AVR world, a lot of times is your Denon, Marantz. I've reviewed several of those, owned several of them over the years. They just work. Like
they tick a lot of boxes for not nearly as much money.
Yeah. So, affordability is going to be the Denon side. You're going to spend a lot more, quite a bit more on the Marantz side. So, I mean, my go-to I typically recommend Denon. Some people don't like Odyssey. I like Odyssey. I think it sounds great. I think there are other room corrections that could potentially give you more flexibility, like Dirac or ARC with Anthem. But again, you're going to spend quite a bit more money getting an Anthem. So what are you guys' recommendations on AVRs?
Go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah, I started my home theater way back 2000s with Pioneer Elites until they went out, and then was a Denon Marantz user for a long time. I like Anthem as a brand. I would recommend the MRXs.
Sure.
He said there'll be a little bit more, but yeah, the whole new lineup of Denons though is looking pretty solid across the board.
For me,
Ryan's the Storm.
No, well, yes, but
Storm.
it's very dependent on the feature set that you need.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's very dependent on budget. Budget is a big deciding factor in a lot of this, and people I think have a tendency to not look at that. Like, there's better options, right? But if you're constrained by budget, you need to pick your options within that budget. Yeah. So, in saying that, and you brought up Storm and Dirac and stuff, I think it's important. We've talked about this a few times that not all Dirac is the same Dirac, right? You've got different taps and filters and all kinds of other stuff that is running behind the scenes. And there's different levels of Dirac also inside of that or outside of that. But the biggest thing that people need to look into is the feature set and what checks the boxes that they need. Like what AVR Pre-Pro is delivering the things that you need: channel count, room correction, bass outputs, all that kind of stuff. What is doing it for you? And then pick based on that. I mean, Odyssey has come a long way with their new app and stuff. Yeah, it's an extra like $200 to get more granular control, but I think that does help a lot. Sure. I think all of the room corrections have their shortcomings. I think all of them you're going to want to probably measure afterwards. I wouldn't trust the graphs that they output. I would want to measure afterwards because you're going to have some variance between room correction from run to run. It's just how things end up going on what the algorithm decides is beneficial or not beneficial in any circumstance during that run. So Denon is awesome in the more entry level. I think Pioneer's bringing a lot with their newer stuff. Onkyo seems to be doing okay, though I have no experience with those as of late. And then after that, I mean, you've Anthem with their ARC is really well liked. And then really it's after that, it's things like Dirac and Trinov's stuff that they're bringing to the table. But just pick something that checks the boxes for you. Yeah. What I would say.
Dude, I love this. MQ says he paid $600 for a lightly used Denon 6500H. That's a killer receiver, dude.
Dude, did you steal it?
I reviewed
the guy over the head.
That's a youth man deal, man. They happen.
You can't sugarcoat and call it theft a youth man deal, okay?
Dude, I felt like
had rocks inside.
Hey, it's not stealing if you don't lie, if you don't try to manipulate. You just say, hey, I have this much available. Are you willing to sell it? And if they say yes, then that is a win-win for both parties. That's the way I look at it. Because they don't have to sell it for you.
I get it, but I'm just saying maybe he'd like hit him over the head with a monkey wrench and caused a concussion, and maybe he gave him the wrong price.
Nah. So, man, I'm happy for you. Yeah, like I said, I reviewed the 6400, loved it. Rock solid, had no issues with it, sounded great. Like Ryan said, it checked all the boxes. I mean, it's got processing for all the various formats. So, definitely it's got a good power supply in it. So you can handle, I think that one did up to 11 channels, I believe. So that's phenomenal, man.
It's whatever works for you.
Yeah. Man, Ike, where's that ban button? Man, youth man ripoff. Nah. The good thing is there's some great deals out there, guys. I mean, there really, really are. You just got to be patient. You got to be looking. Looks like MQ has a 7.2.4 ELAC bookshelves and 4 monoprice end ceilings. Awesome setup, man. Super, super affordable. Monoprice is making some really good options, especially like if your budget's on the low end, man. You can get a killer setup. Ike's got a see, Ike, here I am trying to be nice to you, and you want to like smack talk me, man. No, I just did a home theater tour of Ike's setup. So Ike was at CEDIA with us, helping out myself and Brad, and we got to hang out. He was our transportation back and forth from CEDIA because he's in the Dallas area. And we had a chance to go over to his house one day and do a home theater tour. And that video is doing really, really well. It's one of those things to where Ike's home theater is just very practical. It's not uber high end. It's not super, super extravagant, unaffordable. And so a lot of you guys are just really relating to that video. So if you haven't checked it out, definitely head over to the channel. Just click on videos and you'll see it. I forget what it's called, but anyway, it's like one of the most recent videos, home theater tour. So, but definitely go check that out. So super excited for you, man. That's awesome. Let's see here. Eric says,
guys, just a heads up, I'm not going to start any more questions.
Okay, cool. All right. So when doing audio, yeah, we've got like 17 in the queue.
Mm-hmm.
When doing audio calibration from the AVR, if you use a better mic like the UMic 1 or the next step up, would you get better results than the built-in microphone? That's interesting. So I've always used just the included mic, but we know it's pretty cheap, and probably their tolerances on those might not be that great. They're made of plastic, super, inexpensive.
Can you use a different mic for Odyssey?
That I don't know. I know you can use like the UMic 1 for like mini DSP, but I don't know if you can replace that, because my understanding is those might, like what they've told me is you can't use, like, let's say for instance, Pioneers. Well, actually,
Yeah.
let me back up. It's not even a good idea sometimes to use the same manufacturer's mic because those mics are kind of calibrated for that model. Now, sometimes they'll use the same model of Odyssey mic for a few models, but maybe a model that was 4 years ago, they may have used a different mic.
Yeah, and Phoenix Audio brings up a good point. You can't plug it into the receiver. It's 3.5 millimeter, and all of these mics, like the UMC 1 and the UMic and stuff, are USB. Or they're going to be something like from Earthworks or something that's going to need an audio interface. So probably not.
Good question there.
But in this, I would say on things like ARC and Dirac, diminishing returns, right? If you want accuracy, yeah, there's going to be some like more fine tuning. There's probably going to be a little bit better. Would you notice? But UMic 1 or Dayton Audio Mic or UMC, I mean, those are probably all fine. There's a reason they're tried and true and used so much.
Cool. IMZ says, Youth Man, do you redeem your digital copies? The answer is no. I kind of mentioned that earlier. I don't do a whole lot of digital media. I don't have a need to be on the road watching movies. If I'm on the road hanging out with my family on a vacation, I'm not going to be watching a film on my, my phone or anything. So typically not really. Sometimes I'll download a movie to my phone if I'm going to be on an airplane so I can watch it. But other than that, I mean, I really don't. So I have a Marantz receiver 6015. Is that a good one or should I upgrade? So that would be, so I reviewed the SR 8015. So that would have been in that series. The 8015 was a beast, man. I mean, it's a killer.
I had the 6015 5 years ago. It was great.
So it's just going to have less channels. And kind of like Ryan said earlier, it probably depends on, does it meet your needs? Does it have all the features that you want? Does it have all the channels that you need? And if it still works and sounds great, doesn't necessarily mean that you need to upgrade to one of these latest greatest. If you want to, that's fine. But if it's got enough power, enough channels, still functioning great, man, rock it out. Use it for a while until a lot of times I won't upgrade until what I have doesn't meet my needs, So that's kind of not always, but I'm not the one that always has to have the latest, greatest, Like when we went from, when we first introduced to Atmos, it still took me a couple of years before I even bought into it because I thought it was similar to when they added front wides. I'm like, oh man, that's kind of gimmicky. And they're like, oh, now let's do this and front heights. I'm like, oh gosh, here we go. They're just trying to get me to sell my receiver
Yeah.
and get this new one. And then they're like, Atmos. I'm like, oh, okay, here we go again. Another gimmick. And then I began to hear some Atmos system. I'm like, I like this. And so then I ended up putting it in my setup. But yeah, man, I think that 15 series, it was solid. Like I said, the 8015 is a beast. Somebody even recommended it in the chat earlier. So it's a great receiver. So man, I'd hang on to it as long as it's working and meeting your needs. James says, hey, Tech, do you need a gig internet for Kaleidescape?
He's talking about downloading.
I think it helps.
Yeah, if you have gig internet, you can download on Kaleidescape at 800 megabit or so if you have a Tera, which is all they sell now anyway. So that's basically what you get. That'll get you a 4K movie in about 10, 12 minutes.
Mm-hmm. So if they have just slower, it just means it's going to take longer to download.
Yep.
And, because it's not streaming, you don't necessarily have to have super fast internet. I mean, technically, I guess you could have a really slow internet. You just may have to let it download for a day and come back and watch it tomorrow.
But the benefit to Kscape is you can start the downloads from a remote PC or phone.
Yep.
I gotcha. So you could
got
be
that
like,
going for you.
There you go.
You could be at the restaurant. You guys decide you want to watch something, start the download.
Nice.
It downloads it while you're eating, and then it's done by the time you get home.
That's a pretty cool feature. I don't think I knew that.
Yep.
Yeah, they have an excellent mobile app.
Yep, they do. You can also control it remotely.
Mm-hmm. And 12 minutes is fast enough. You make a decision what you want to watch. By the time you make the decision, you get to your room. Probably 15 minutes is.
That is the new Strato C and the new Terras. The old ones didn't have that ability.
Right. Yep,
they were
the combo units.
Gotcha. Very cool, man. I'm feeling left out. All right. Yeah, definitely. Everything I've seen, man. I had a chance to hang out with Talo, the CEO at Cedia, and just a super cool guy, dude. And but we got a chance to talk more in depth about Kaleidescape and some of the features that it has. And they came out with their new 88 terabyte server, which is crazy. That's super huge, very expensive, but very, very it'll hold a lot of movies, man. So I think this, what internet speeds increase over time will streaming. Okay. When internet speeds increase over time, will streaming be improved? I don't think it's necessarily the internet speeds, because right now we've got plenty of speed. I think the problem is it's the providers, your Disney Plus, your Netflix, your Hulu. They kind of determine what bandwidth they're going to be sending through those streams. So I don't think it's a limitation of like technology. I think the technology is there. I think the cost is probably pretty high. And I think Ryan mentioned it earlier. Really, they're kind of catering to the mass, the masses. And the masses don't have what you and I have. They don't have dedicated theater rooms, or they don't have a really cool setup in their living room with subwoofers and surround sound and all of this. They've got a sound bar, or they've got just TV speakers, or they've got this, their phone, or they've got a tablet or a laptop. So that's kind of where they're catering. That's their market. So I'm not sure, honestly, I'm not sure we'll ever get to the point to where we're streaming lossless audio and true like native 4K resolution, because I don't think the vast majority of people are even interested in that. I mean, would you guys concur on that, or what are your thoughts?
Go ahead, Jeremy.
I'd say I might be a little more hopeful. I would never say never, but it might take us a while to get there.
Yeah.
But Sony's got that Bravia Core stuff, and they were hitting 80 megabits, but they screwed the audio. They didn't boost the audio. And we're seeing a lot more progress on the music side, right? High fidelity music, and I'd have to believe that the video side will follow, but I don't know. I wait every put it this way, I suppose I wait every WWDC for Apple to say something about it, and I remain disappointed every year. So.
Crazy. Yeah, I mean, like you said, I'm hopeful. I would love to see them get to that point. Of course, that would be incredible. I just don't know if they see the value based on the amount of people that really care. You know what I mean? That's a lot of expense for them. That's a lot of infrastructure that they've got to have to be able to send that amount of bandwidth through millions of people. And are millions of people really going to take advantage of that? Do they have a system capable of playing back lossless audio? You know?
Yeah. Being an engineer and working in my career in tech, just the way things progress, it's hard to say what, you know, what another 10 years will bring. We look back at the technology we had in our hands 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. The pace of science and technology and engineering is just crazy.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I just don't think the internet speeds is the issue. I think it's just their choice.
No.
Another question. Rex says, "Hey, Jeremy, thoughts on the NVIDIA Shield?"
He's got the smiley face on there. That might be in reference to a comment from one of my videos. The Apple just announced their new Apple TV model coming out, so excited about that. But in a couple of my Apple TV videos, the Shield Bros always come out. You make a video about the Apple TV, and then it's like, oh, that thing's a piece of trash. The Shield is best. And I was like, okay, I didn't even mention the Shield. So but the Shield is awesome. They're good devices. A friend of mine, that's all he uses. He's got a monster gaming PC in his office. He game streams down to his basement. He's got my former 85-inch Sony down there and an Anthem with some golden ears. So I know a bunch of guys that love their Shields. I'm an Apple ecosystem walled garden kind of guy though.
So I just ordered the 128 gigabyte with the Ethernet because I want to hardwire it. And there's only $20 difference. I'm thinking there's really no reason to order, to me, for $20, go ahead and get that one. And I think you even shared in your video that it's like, why wouldn't you, Because you don't know down the road, you may want to connect it, or you may want access to, the other features. There's about 2 or 3 different features on there. But my biggest thing is that I've got the older 2017 version of the Shield, and it is buggy as crap. So I'll load like Netflix and it'll kind of like get stuck. And so I have to like force quit. And then sometimes I have to reboot the Shield just to get it to kind of function. So that's where I struggle. So my thought is I'm going to use the Shield for Plex and my hard drive. And then I'm going to use the Apple 4K TV for streaming, for Disney Plus and Netflix and Hulu.
That's what I do. I would use the Apple TV solely if it supported full pass-through for local content, like through Plex or something. That doesn't. I know there's ways around it for people that are probably typing on their keyboards right now. I just don't want to be bothered with that. So I use the Shield for everything for my Plex server, and then for all of the streaming content, we use Apple TV because the interface is just so much more polished.
Yeah, Infuse is such a nice app for local media streaming. I really like it. You get lossless, but you don't get Atmos or DTSX.
Yeah, good question there. All right, so Magic Lake says, do you guys feel that Maverick is a static mix? I'm waiting on a 4K disc. However, I was underwhelmed with the iTunes stream, which we kind of talked about that earlier. I wouldn't expect an iTunes stream to be amazing on Maverick, as I felt it wasn't a dynamic mix with no object moving or movement or panning. I don't know.
I thought it was awesome on the Kaleidescape.
Yep.
Cool.
It was. I think it's the stream. I think it's the streamed version. I've heard that time and time again. Just don't do it, guys. Just do not do it.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
In my experience, too, even if you want to compare streams to physical or K, you got to turn it up like a good 3 to 6 dB to even be level matched.
Gotcha. Crank it up, man.
THX intro. Turn it up.
That's all right. Chris says, do you ever see streaming technology ever matching physical media to the naked eye? I don't think so. And again, that's just me. I mean, we don't know technology. I mean, we'd be like mind readers.
I think it's there to some extent. I would challenge virtually anybody here to put them up to the naked eye without pixel peeping.
So we're just talking, we're talking visual, so not audio.
That's what I took naked eye to mean, was visuals only.
I gotcha.
Right.
I don't know.
Audio is the bigger difference. Than
Audio is
the
the
video
problem.
side.
I mean, yeah, you can see compression in certain things, probably, but man, Stranger Things looks phenomenal for what it is. I mean, I think like physically looking at something, it looks pretty damn good. And you have to weigh what is good enough, right? Audio is not, but the video side, it looks pretty damn good.
Yeah.
And yeah, it may not have the same bit rate and stuff, but it's pretty good as long as you're not going up there pixel peeping.
Yeah.
For too much good content, it doesn't even matter. We don't have a choice, right? You gotta stream it anyway. But when you have the choice.
But I guess I should say I'm not taken out of a movie or a show by how bad it looks.
Right.
In most cases.
Very cool. Whodunit says, would you run SVS Ultra Tower in an 11 by 15 by 7 dedicated room over the ELAC 7.1 bed layer? Why? So I've reviewed the SVS Ultra Towers with the Ultra Center. I love the center. I think it's definitely one of the best center channels that I've reviewed on the channel. Just incredibly clean dialogue. I watched one of the first movies that I watched with that was Greatest Showman, and it sounded phenomenal. Really, really enjoyed that. I haven't had any experience with ELAC whatsoever. I know they provide a great sound, good bang for your buck on their lower end, but they've also got some really high end stuff as well. Have you guys heard any of the ELAC speakers?
Nope. My suggestion in this case is try and listen to them or buy from a place that does free returns. I really caution people buying things unseen unless they can get a real non-biased first-person account from somebody that they trust that knows what they're talking about. Buying sight unheard can be very dangerous because there are differences in what speakers do and how they perform. And some people like different things. I mean, M-Wave was a good showcase of that. And even yesterday was a great showcase of that. So I would highly encourage you to look at a location that allows for free returns or go to some place like Best Buy with a Magnolia Theater. Some of them sell ELAC, maybe.
I don't know.
But
so the good thing with SVS, they do have the 45-day return
that is
policy.
True.
I think you have to pay for shipping back, but paying shipping back versus keeping something that you don't like is still a bad deal. So I don't know what ELAC's return policy is on that. So definitely check into that. But the best thing, of course, would be go listen with your own ears because I can't tell you what you're going to like. I mean, that's just, plain and simple. So
I think they're both great respected brands. You're just going to have to figure out what you like.
Yeah. Nicholas, appreciate the $7.99 super chat. Anthem Arc high frequency extension. Can we elaborate a little on this option? If ARC set to 250 hertz, is the LFE 120 bypassed? Is it the sub crossover? All right, I'm going to need some help with this.
I don't know what that is.
I'm trying. Yeah, I've never heard of high frequency extension.
I don't recall this setting in my Anthem.
So you have an Anthem.
All right, I got it. High frequency extension sets the upper limit to which the subwoofer plays. It is advised to set this to match the natural roll-off measured by ARC.
Okay.
Do not confuse this with the subwoofer crossover frequency established in the speaker panels.
So we're basically limiting how, like the top end of it. Well, but isn't that the same thing as a crossover though? Because a crossover does that. It says I can only play from this down.
I don't know.
If AR sits at the 250 hertz. I'll be honest, Nicholas, that's a great question, but I have no experience.
I don't know why you would do this.
I've only reviewed one Anthem processor. Actually, it was AVR back in the day. It's probably 3 years ago. It was the MRX 1120. But I don't even know if they had that option back then because that was pre-Arc Genesis. I think that was a newer version of Arc, and I haven't even reviewed that one.
I don't know enough about this to be able to pass judgment.
Yeah, I don't. I'm even looking in my Arc file right now. I don't see, there's deep bass boost, there's room gain center frequency, deep tilt frequencies. Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't know, brother. That would be one of those. Maybe reach out to the guys in the Arc or at least the Anthem Facebook group.
No, here it is actually. So in the I don't think I've ever changed this number.
Okay.
in my art cals specific to each subwoofer. Yeah, there is a high frequency.
Oh, I could see that if you're using multiple subs and you set the crossover for the speakers, maybe you don't want a specific sub playing above a certain frequency. If it's individually allocatable, that makes sense. But I don't have enough experience to say anything further than that.
I think this is like the measure. This is ARC indicating what the highest frequency that sub is reasonably capable of doing before it cuts it off. But that's still independent from the cross. Like it still measures and applies a separate crossover. So you're going to be crossing over way before that.
Yeah, that's what I'm
drop anyway.
Like,
okay, yeah, but let's say you have different types of subs, or you have room mode problems in your room, and you don't want certain subs playing at a certain frequency. You could set a crossover point of say 90 hertz, and then you could have the high frequency extension for certain subs set at certain points below that, so that sub maybe didn't play because it was having a room mode problem, or if it was having distortion because it was a different type of sub.
Right.
I could see a use case for that if it's independently controllable per sub.
Right.
Outside of that, I don't know.
Just sounds like an independent crossover for each sub.
Yes.
Like he's talking about 250 hertz.
But I don't know.
Yeah. My subs, just for a frame of reference, I guess, my two subs in my theater art cal are set at 220 and 190.
Interesting. 220?
For your crossover?
No. For this high frequency extension. Yeah. The crossovers are
I guess I'm just
80.
I'm just confused what that is doing. Because if it's crossed over at 80, it's going to roll off way below 250. Like it'll never even come close to that. So I'm not sure. I don't know what the purpose of that is, I guess. That's where my confusion is. So, man, I wish I could tell you, Nicholas. That's something I really haven't had any experience with. Eric says, spatial audio, are they referring to direct bass control that adjusts bass off each speaker group?
No.
So again,
this is a totally new feature that hasn't been released yet. Storm's going to be the first ones to get it. And it does a bunch with EQ using not only subs, but any of the speakers to remove an EQ, remove problems and fix a bunch of stuff that room correction normally has a problem with using sound waves. It's really cool. It's going to be a really cool piece of technology. I'm really excited to play with it.
Tech is moving forward, man.
It's not the same as bass control.
Magic Lakes, what is your favorite movie 4K Blu-ray with a DTSX track? I don't know if I have a favorite DTSX track. Yeah, I don't think I've got. I like most time I just put it in. I listen to a movie, and I go by that. But as far as like just DTSX, I don't think I have one in particular. Do you guys?
Nothing that jumps out to me.
I run everything out of into my DTSX SX Pro up converter. Gotcha. So I guess I'm a DTSX Pro or a DTSX fanboy.
Right.
As far as my favorite, probably Jurassic Park. The original is probably my favorite.
Is that native DTSX or? Okay. Very cool. Yeah, I don't really know of a specific native DTSX.
There's not that many.
Yeah, no. That may be why.
Dolby won the 4K audio format war.
100%. Cool. Got a few more questions here. So Johnny E says, what's up, Ryan, Youthman, Jeremy? Question, what is best to buy for a 2.35 screen, the Lumigen or Panamorph lens to keep my picture at all times the same? Both are expensive. Thanks for the info. So I run the poor man's anamorphic setup, which means I use the the lens memory and zooming in and repositioning within the JVC NX7. But Ryan, you probably have more experience on this, and Jeremy too, than I do. I really haven't ever had a Panamorph lens. And of course I've never had a Lumigen as well. And Lumigen is we're definitely not hearing much in the news about Lumigen. It almost seems like a lot of people, and I'm not saying this just because
I won't comment on that.
Yeah.
Well, I won't comment on that. I'll just say it as a video processor because I work for MadVR, so I'll just label this as a video processor.
Yeah.
Video processors can bring a lot more to the table than like your fixed asset of what a anamorphic lens can do. I mean, you're going to gain tone mapping, external tone mapping. You're going to gain, in some contexts, depending on which way you will. I mean, this can go both ways, but you can gain aspect ratio management, nonlinear stretch. In some forms, you can get geometry correction. You can get a bunch of other stuff, motion, AI-based motion interpolation. So you get a bunch of stuff when you go to an external video processor. The lens is going to do one thing, and it is going to move the light. So you're not doing, if you're doing zooming, you're moving it from the overscan portions of your screen onto the screen. So the benefit to using a lens is you're getting more light and higher resolution from utilizing the full portions of your panel. That's the benefit of the lens. The benefit of the video processor is everything I talked about before. Yeah. So it depends on the situation you're in. If you want more light, right, and more resolution, go with the lens. However, the byproduct of lens, remember, is you're going to get barrel distortion, and you're probably going to see it. Not that it's necessarily going to take you out of a movie or whatever you're watching, but it's something to think about. Certain video processors can compensate for barrel distortion, just so you're aware. If you don't need more light, I would recommend a video processor.
Very cool.
Jeremy, got anything else?
I've got a 235 screen, and I do the zooming as well. But I would say that the zooming, my zoom setup is a little more turbocharged with the combination of the JVC, the Kaleidescape, and Control 4.
Gotcha.
In terms of Kaleidescape will put the subtitles in the image, so you don't need to be able to have it changed to preserve your subs, and the shifting. You still have to wait for the lenses and all the stuff to move, but at least everything gets triggered off of the aspect ratio cues. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, I got probably 5 or 6 how-to videos about that on the channel, actually.
Your other downside of that is when you watch multiple aspect ratio movies,
yes,
you have a problem.
Yep. So I exactly. Yeah. I just did, after Top Gun, I made a bunch of mode changes to that with basically zooming and masking with a couple very specific settings to deal with that. But you lose
it's a pain in the butt.
The full shift. It is. Yeah.
Yeah. So Jeremy said he's got some, did I spell that right? I did not spell that right. I was looking at that going,
yeah. It's a tongue twister. No, I thought it was clever.
I know how to spell it. Enthusiasm. Let's see if I did it right.
Yeah, that's it.
Let's see. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay, there we go. I was missing a letter. So definitely head over to Jeremy's channel, Techthusiasm. He's got some really cool content, and you've got a couple of videos on how to do that on your channel, right? Super cool, man. Jump back over here to comments. Got a few more. So Kevin Masta says, running 5.1.4 sides, I can move my couch 50 centimeters, which is about 20 inches forward, to run 7.1.4. So that would be adding 2 surround backs in his setup with rear surrounds, like speakers just right behind you. Or is this too close and get distracting?
I think if you use the right speakers, it's fine.
Yeah. Typically, if your speakers are really close, like if they're 20 inches from you, then, I mean, I don't see any problem with having like your surround back speakers 20 inches. I know guys that are running them pretty much right up against their couch. Not ideal, but usually with something like that, you're going to want like a wide dispersion kind of speaker, kind of spread that around more. But no, I don't see anything wrong with 20 inches. And adding that to your, to your setup to make a 7.4 setup. So
I agree. Go for it.
Yeah. Last 2-3 questions here. Derek at Techthusiasm, you inspired me to do acoustically transparent screen. I'm doing DIY. DIY. I think I said it the wrong way. 115-inch diameter with spandex. Very cool, man.
I gave the thumbs down because I like my speakers in the room, but I'm weird.
Yeah.
I flip my room over. I flipped my room over at the beginning of the year from being in-room speakers to in walls.
I just do too much two-channel. I don't really have room to put the Martin Logans behind a screen. Plus, they're too pretty, and I like looking at them.
Yeah,
that was so. My use case in this room is exactly the inverse of that. I thought we would be down here, you know, with some bourbon, with some friends, playing music, and you know, we just don't use the room that way.
Nope.
It's a movie room for us. So
sure. So what do you see the value of going acoustically transparent screen?
Locking those speakers. Yeah, locking those speakers behind the image, having the sound emanate that way. I, as a theater-based space, again, not a hangout space, but like we really use this room just for movies.
Right.
The integrated look of it, and I couldn't get a scope screen before if I had speakers in the room based on dimensions and placements and where the door is and all of that. So by putting the speakers behind it, let me go wider. I had 135-inch 16:9 in here originally with the Focal Electra towers, you know, with enough space to put them outside of it. Take the towers out. I kept basically the 135-inch 16:9 footprint, but just bought the equivalent 163-inch 235 scope and was able to do that. Otherwise, the stuff would have been in the light path. So
Chana, bringing
you can go bigger. Yeah.
What's going on, Chana? Good to see you, man. Oh goodness. But yeah, I agree with you, man. I love having my speakers behind it. I love being able to get access to them. That was real important to me. So I added like gas shocks on them so I could easily lift up my screen. And you know, people that come over, they don't know what's behind your screen. So when I lift it up, they're like, holy cow, dude, that's crazy. But being able to just anchor that sound directly behind there, man, that's just phenomenal. I really, really enjoy that. So, and plus, like you said, it allows me to go pretty much a wall to wall. My room's 13 feet wide. My screen is about 12 feet wide. So, I mean, I'm almost wall to wall. And so when you walk in the room, you're like, whoa, dude, that's like legit. I mean,
what you should do before you raise that, you know how a lot of people put the images of what's behind their screen coming through their projector and they make it like I think Tony does that.
Yeah.
You should put images of like two
so small
itty bitty bows and just put them up there. Like, guys, this is what's driving this.
Yeah, you won't believe this. Yeah. No. All right, last two questions here. Jonathan Rose says, is using REW with the UMIC 1 better? Okay, so we kind of talked about that than a factory room correction. Yeah, I don't think you can necessarily.
Well, I would say that he's asking if you should do UMIC 1 and RU versus something like Odyssey. Yeah. Like if you were going to do it, I think a manual one is going to be better as long as you have the know-how to be able to do it. It takes significantly longer, but it's going to give you a better.
So if you're doing that
experience,
if you don't have something like a mini DSP, then you're going to have to manually go in and apply that. If
your AVR pre-pro would have to have the ability to be able to do it. Very few do.
Yeah. So then that would be like a lot of manual settings. So if that's what you're asking, again, I think it comes down to how well are you at doing that? You know what I'm saying? Because you can manually do something, but if you don't know what you're doing, it's probably gonna sound like doo-doo.
That's a very deep rabbit hole.
You know, but if you know what you're doing, you probably can get a lot better results than, you know, Odyssey or whatever, because they're just doing some automatic. They're trying to do the best they can, but the reality is you're able to look at the data, you're able to make changes, try this, remeasure, see if that performed better. And so you can kind of do multiple things where a room correction typically is just doing it once.
Your other issue too is that a lot of them don't show you the real results post, right? They'll give you like a estimate of what they're supposed to look like, but they don't give you the real ones, because most of them don't take a reference afterwards and then give you that. So remember that, let's say your AC turns on or kids are running upstairs during your calibration, you're not going to know, right? And the room calibration software is going to take that into effect and you're not going to know that. Whereas if you're doing this manually, you're going to see that and be like, what is that? And you're going to be able to go back and look at that. So also know that when you're doing these room calibrations, these can vary wildly from, you know, run to run. So it's very important that you take a room correction sweep with whatever you're using, and then verify afterwards and measure and see what it did. And then if you don't like it, run it again and see what it does, and then compare and contrast. And I think you'll be surprised at how different those runs can be. So I think if you have the know-how and you have the time and you have the hardware to be able to do it, manual all day, every day.
Yeah. So again, it just comes back to technique, knowledge, trial and error. I say go for it. Try it out. You know, you're going to get better with over time. And plus you'll probably have more fun doing it. Well, I say
you're going to learn a lot.
You may not have more fun at first, but eventually when you get to the point where like, man, I know what I'm doing, that's when you can really, and you can help other people out too. You know,
you probably have 400 hours in your projector with only 10 hours of watching.
Lots and lots of hours calibrating. All right, last two here. Brian, hey guys, 2 subs with bookshelf speakers or 1 sub with towers? I like the 2 subs, and the only, man, that's a trick question. I like 2 subs. Well, okay, so let me ask you this. How many seats do you have? If you're only concerned with 1 seat, you can probably get away with 1 sub and towers because you can calibrate it and put that, I think you can. You can put that sub in the perfect location, get the maximum amount of bass response in your primary listening position if you're not concerned about your other seats. If you're worried about other seats, I like the dual approach, but I'm also a big fan of towers. To me, towers have just a bigger sound to them, not just in the bass department, just an overall bigger like sound stage typically with tower speakers. So I've always liked towers myself. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, I don't know if he's clear about home theater or 2-channel as well.
Yeah, let us know in the chat. Are you talking 2-channel? Are you talking home theater?
I think people get sick of me talking.
Well, what are you thinking though? Because I know your brain's think you're like.
So I've done so I have a comparison area down in my basement because I'm a dealer, and I've been able to do this. So I've got the Martin Logan 60 XTIs right next to the 35 XTIs.
Yeah.
Same family. One's a tower, one's a bookshelf. When you have them playing by themselves, you can hear the difference and you can tell which one is which. But when you turn on the sub, it's very hard to tell.
Really? Okay.
Very hard to tell. And as long as the subs are in the proper place, I think I prefer, even as a single listening position, I'd take 2 subs.
Interesting. Gotcha.
More even frequency response. You're going to fix some nulls. You're going to fix, because even if you get it in an ideal spot, I don't know how many ideal spots there are. I think 2 is still going to be better than just 1. I mean, that's my position. I totally understand what you're saying though, Michael, because a tower can get deeper, right? It has a larger frequency response than the bookshelf does. When you put it with a sub, I don't know how much you notice.
Right.
You cover it up a bit.
Gotcha. So I think either way can be a win-win.
It can.
Just figure out what works best in your
Something else I'll say is it also very much depends on what speakers they are, because not all speakers, especially bookshelves, are going to be able to compete.
Gotcha. So yeah, so if they're in the same family, maybe is that?
Well, I just meant like if you get some cheap bookshelves and stuff that are just not, they have like no dig at all, there's probably going to be a hole. But there's a lot of variables that go into that equation, I guess is what I should say.
Yeah, but I mean, like if they're in the same family and the same series of speakers, would that be?
I don't know. I don't want somebody to make a buying decision based on what I say.
Oh, but they do, dude. That's the crazy.
I know. I think as long as you get a competent bookshelf and good subs, I would do it that way. That would be my.
I'm a fan of towers, man. Because here's part of my thought too. If you go with a bookshelf, typically you're going to have to buy some speaker stands. Now you run the risk of somebody bumping that and knocking them over. If you got animals, if you got young children, I don't know. I just like towers, but that's just always been me. I've never really had bookshelves as my main speakers. Now, what I will say is the Clips 5s, dude, I love. Now, if we're talking about just 2-channel, those are stinking phenomenal, man. They're really, really cool.
He says KEF R3 versus KEF R7.
KEF R3 versus R7. KEF R3.
I would probably do the KEF R3s. I mean, that's double the price for the towers.
Yeah. $1,800 each towers and $1,800 probably a pair for the bookshelves. Is that right? kind of what I'm seeing.
I don't know.
I think
I don't
it
know if it's
is.
a pair or not. I mean, that's a significant price difference.
Yeah, these are $1,800 a pair for the
The
bookshelf.
same driver?
Probably from the same series.
Mm-hmm. The other thing too is like this stuff is always a progression, right? So if you want the towers and you have the budget to buy towers and a sub, buy towers and a sub, you'll be better off buying a second sub next year than buying bookshelves that you might want to sell and buy towers. You'll
fair.
Your path is simpler, much simpler that way. If it's a forever purchase, then I would go with
no purchases forever.
Yeah,
those people are just delusional.
That's exactly. Right. That's right. But great question, man. Appreciate it, Brian. Rocksteady says, Youth Man, are you going to upgrade your surround and Atmos to JTR? So eventually I'd love to have an all JTR system. I think eventually at some point I will replace my clip surrounds with JTR, probably the 110 slants. So they're a coaxial driver, 10-inch driver. So it has a kind of a woofer and a coaxial tweeter, I guess, in the center of it. I think that would be a huge upgrade over what I've got. And I've always been curious, like how much different would it sound going from wide dispersion side surrounds and rear surrounds to like a direct firing, direct radiating speaker. So yeah, I think I could easily see me doing that sometime down the road. I'd love to have the Atmos as well, but number one's a big financial commitment, but number two, mounting 10-inch drivers on the ceiling. I mean, it's pretty big real estate up there. So I'd have to really look and see, do I have the space? Cause I've got cloud acoustic panels hanging from the ceiling as well.
They've got the end walls now.
Yeah, but I mean, you still got it's still a big hole. So what size are those? Are they 8-inch or are they 10-inch?
10s.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's just the backer box is
inside
the wall.
Yeah. So I think, I don't know. So, I mean, it's definitely, possibly.
He'll do it.
But I guess it's one of those things where I'm not in a hurry to do anything. It's like, I love my system. I'm enjoying my system. Would I love to have a Kaleidescape down the road? Yeah.
Denial.
Is it going to happen anytime soon? Probably not,
He'll do it. Just he doesn't know when.
I'm just good buy an Apple TV, man. Cause I'm like, what the heck? Let's give it a shot. I hadn't had one in probably, my goodness.
The old Apple TV remote, not the current one, but the old one, that was terrible.
Yeah,
for sure.
I kind of liked it. It was cool, but I lost
without any touch buttons. Well, it did, but it was just flat.
Yeah.
I didn't.
That thing would fall in my cushion. I'd lose it for 6 months. I have to use my Harmony remote
for 6 months.
I did, dude. It was crazy. Super crazy, man.
I'm just picturing Youth Man constantly losing these remotes, and then he finally sells his couch and pulls out like 10 of them from the cushions.
What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna buy one of them air tags. At least I can tell which cushion it's in.
I'm just imagining. Well, no, you should get one of those retractable key things that you put on your belt, and it's like on this fast retraction thing.
That's hilarious. Just follow the cable. Definitely. Appreciate the $4.99 super sticker, Jamo. Appreciate the love. Well, guys, we're going to wrap it up here, man. We went a little bit over, but Jeremy, definitely appreciate you joining us for the Sunday night chat here, Sunday Night Live. Ryan, always. Like I said, Jonathan is taking a break. He had a big event this past Saturday.
I didn't want to bother him.
Event at the park, and so give him some rest and a day off. But definitely appreciate you guys bringing your questions, man. We love doing this and hanging out with you on a Sunday night and really just trying to provide as much value as we can to you guys so that when you're building your system, you get the questions that you need answered. So if you guys have any needs for home theater, definitely hit Ryan up. He's a dealer for a lot of different brands. You can hit him up at ryan@ascendav.net.
Make sure you tell me that if you do hit me up that you came from Youth Man.
He even sent me these cool headphones, man. Check these out.
Got to take care of Michael.
See?
Got to take care of Michael.
He's like, dude, what's your address? I need to send you something.
He thought it was an NV9.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, you shouldn't have. He's like, you're right. I didn't. And so these arrived, man, dude. I love them, man, because I've got these are like $30 headphones. They're cheap. One audio.
I couldn't look at those anymore.
They're nice. I mean, they're comfy.
I could see my reflection in them.
Hi-fi, that's for sure, man. These are cool, man. Love the cable on them, and so they're just not as efficient. So being able to plug them into my Fosrite, be able to get more volume when I'm listening to music, or this little device over here, this works really well with them too. It's kind of like a DAC, but it's got like an amplifier built in, so you can get a lot more volume out of them. So, but cool deal, man. Hope you guys have an incredible week, Jeremy. Like I said, appreciate you being on the stream tonight. Head over to his channel, Techthusiam on YouTube. He's got some cool videos on home theater. He's got some a lot of stuff in the works. You got some new products in for review? You got anything?
I just picked up a Furman. I got a video coming tomorrow. Swapped up some of my power conditioning, and then like been doing the streaming stuff. I'll be covering that new Apple TV.
Nice.
When that comes. So
very, very cool. I've got about 9 different products in for review, so definitely stay on the lookout for that this week. I'm gonna try to crank out as many of those as I can. And so anyway, guys, hope y'all have an incredible week. We'll catch you next week, 5 p.m. Pacific time and 8 p.m. Eastern time.
You did it.
I did it.
You did it. Great job.
Usually I have to think it through, like, what time is it? So, all right, guys, have a great week.
See you guys later.